Good morning. From what was a rainy day, now it's going to be beautiful today. But we're in New England, so we end up with a lot of cold, rainy, mixed weather days, especially in the springtime here. It's been so many years and many rides of not quite getting it right. So I wanted to share lots of pro tips and tricks. I had the opportunity to get on my bike and ride as far as I possibly could all day long. I was out for 10 hours at 42 degrees. This is a good example of my setup. When I'm going out in the springtime, full-time Fenders, they're really handy for lots of reasons. One is they keep your bike cleaner, and having a cleaner bike means that all of your components will last longer, not having as much grit and grossness in your chain that allows it to last longer. There's a ton of comfort that comes from not having all of the rain and wet from the road splashing up at you. And not just that, so even when it's raining, you could be getting rain on from top to bottom, and it's just not the same level of as miserable as when water is coming up at you, into your shoes and into your face. Obviously, this is going to be really helpful for protecting the person behind you if you're riding with someone. That allows you to ride with people, and that's really nice. So there's if you're riding by yourself, obviously you're not worrying about the person behind you, but you really don't want to get wet from below. As you can see, I made a mistake on my last ride. This is typically goes down further to the ground, and I hopped off a curb, not remembering that I have fenders on my bike, so I snapped that off. So that is one thing to keep in mind. Those fenders will come close to the ground, and you might not be able to ride the same way you usually do. If you're a mixed terrain rider and you ride in the woods, you don't want fenders on for that kind of riding, because the twigs and sticks will get stuck in the fenders, and it can be a dangerous situation. Those will rip off fenders. Generally, if you need fenders on your bike and you're in the woods, that means it's too wet to be riding on the trails. So please be cognizant of that, especially this time of year. There's a lot of mud out there on the trails, and riding trails will damage them. While we're on the subject of fenders, there are various other fenders. Obviously, these are the bolt-on types where you have a bike that has mounting points on the frame that just makes it really easy to put them on. The first time you put them on, you want a bike shop install them, because it's harder, or you can take the time. It just takes time to put them on the first time. And then after that, it's easy to take them off and put them on because they're already set up. So the first time is the hardest. So these are clip-on fenders. I like these origami, really light fenders. This is a fat bike fender for the rear of the bike. They make narrower ones for gravel bikes or road bikes, so it helps to protect you. Again, it's not going to protect the frame and the bike, but it is certainly helpful to protect you. And they also make origami fenders that go underneath the down tube, so that helps keep that spray from coming up at you. And then your tougher plastic fenders, where those will work for mountain bikes, road bikes. They have a variety of different width ones, and these are tough and strong. Also work well to help keep you dry. So I did notice on the last road ride, someone had one of these fenders, and the way it was angled down, it actually was pretty helpful for keeping the person behind him dry, which was surprising to me. So that's another option fender. So that's a short story on fenders. So where it comes to keeping you warm and dry, or there's maybe no such thing as dry when you're doing a rain ride. Everything will get wet, but there's miserable wet and there's not so miserable wet, and they're staying warm. If you're warm and wet, it's not a big deal. The problem is when you get cold and wet. And the number one thing I absolutely despise is when there's a trickle of water running down your leg and you feel it going into your sock. That's the worst feeling in the world, in my opinion. So there's ways of avoiding that. First, on your feet, having more protected shoes that are just less breathable and intended for wet weather. And you want to size up 1 or 2 sizes. I upsize 2 sizes. on those shoes so that I can fit thick warm socks in there. Air space between your foot and your shoe is warmth. That's how your foot stays warm. If there isn't a lot of room in there, then your feet are just not going to have the opportunity to stay as warm. And a lot of times I'll do this in my winter boots, is have an extra insole, because that space between the bottom of your foot and the bottom of the shoe is really nice to have extra padding there. It's not for the padding, it's for the separation between your foot and a cold sole, because cold air will come up from underneath and through the cleat. That's another way of the cold air getting in to your foot. So bigger shoes are really helpful. Shoe covers really aren't that helpful because they only protect the top of your foot, and that thin sole, if you're riding your summer shoe, still a thin sole. It's just not going to be as protective. A nice set of shoes is going to pay for itself many times. It's worth the small investment. I think they're in the $200 range. It's very few dollars to pay for warm feet, because if you're like me, cold feet mean I don't want to ride. My toes get cold really quickly. One tip that is real handy. So let's say your feet are cold, you start cold. That's a really good recipe for staying cold, is if you're starting your ride cold, not in a warm home or whatever. I will get in somewhere warm, say Dunkin' Donuts, coffee shop, whatever. Take my shoes off, and that just allows blood flow to get back to your toes. And then I'll take my just hands, because they're typically going to be warmer, and warm up your toes with your hands and your feet. Just warm them up, shake them out. Jumping jacks will help, just like kicking your legs out. And I also will kick my legs when riding, just like keep one foot in the pedal and kick the other one. That gets blood to get back into your feet. And then after you've stopped, you've had something warm to drink, hopefully, even if you haven't. This helps a lot. Then put back on your socks and your shoes, and generally your feet will be really warm. A 10-minute stop is going to work wonders. So there you go for your feet. Now pressing. Waterproof clothes. So these you can overheat in really easily. However, really nice if it's going to be raining. Waterproof, actually waterproof, fully taped pants and jacket. These are Pearl Izumi pants. Just go over anything, and a rain jacket. As a base layer under this, I had my bike shorts and fleece pants. But fleece pants can get really warm. They can get too warm to the point where you overheat. And if you're planning on going out with other people, the pace of the group is going to be a big determiner as to whether or not you overheat. I like the idea of having at least some layer of clothing between your skin and waterproof pants, because it's just clammy if you don't. So even knee warmers will be helpful. But the base layer, having that base layer be either fleece or wool is handy. And you might overheat. Just be ready for that. I assume you're riding with riders, with friends who are willing to wait if you need to stop and do a wardrobe change. And that's why the large saddlebag, you want to be able to take your stuff on and off and have a place for it. Obviously, in the spring, in the rain, you're not worrying about speed, you're not worrying about weight. In fact, more weight's better, because then when you get to take all this junk off your bike for your fast summer rides, all of a sudden you're a lot faster. But just forget about speed. You're pushing hard, you're getting a good workout. Don't worry if you're adding another 10 pounds to your bike with all the stuff. It's worth having the space. So what I was wearing up top was just a wool base layer, and I had a jacket over that, and I quickly overheated with that jacket. So I took the jacket off, I put it in the bag, and then I just had the rain jacket on over that. One of the things you want to remember when you're riding, and this is a true thing all the time, but more important in rain and cold, is you want to take care of yourself the moment you need to take care of yourself. It starts to rain, like right now it's starting to sprinkle a little bit. Stop immediately and put on the rain jacket. Just take care of yourself the second you're feeling a little uncomfortable. Things start to get a little chilly. Your hands are starting to feel a little chilly. Take care of them right that moment. Otherwise, it's just gonna get harder to bring your hands back, to get comfortable later. The situation will never get better. So think about your future self and take care of yourself immediately. Stop the group, it'll be fine. It's spring, you're not racing. If you're racing, we're not having this conversation. That's a whole different can of worms. Eating is also important, having calories available so it's easy to grab them, because everything's hard to do when you're wet. but have your feed bags full of food because calories help keep you warm. This is not the time to go on a diet. Just eat, fuel your ride, and you'll get through the ride. Electric pumps. This is a press-to-cycle pump, and with one, let's turn it on. These things are loud, but if you need air, this gives you quick air. It's really fast. Getting things done quickly is important. Oh, here's another thing going back to hands. Lobster gloves, or these 3-finger 45 North gloves are warm, and these are also oversized because I like to put gloves on underneath. I've got a pair of 45 North liners that I wear under here. But let's say you don't have liners or you get caught out, you can go to any cafe and ask them, or restaurant, ask them for food service gloves. They're really inexpensive. These are mechanic gloves, same concept. They're plastic, and it's a vapor barrier layer. So you can wear these under in those gloves, and those gloves can be soaking wet and your fingers can stay nice and warm. And then when you have to take your hands out of your gloves, they just don't get as cold when you take your hands out in order to do things. So cell phone is important, and a wet cell phone doesn't work. You can't make a phone call on it. I wasn't able to unlock my phone. So a Ziploc bag for your phone will be really handy to keep it dry because you want to be able to use your phone. Fortunately, I had a Garmin InReach. That's how I was able to call my husband, let him know that I was out, I was safe, everything was fine, and he knew my location. But having your phone in a Ziploc bag that is actually waterproof is important, because a lot of the things that you think are waterproof, like these bags, they're water resistant. They're not waterproof. On a rainy day, everything in here is going to get wet. I had my phone in one of these bags. I like it. I have to have it. They're very accessible, easy to get to. Pockets are hard to get to when everything's wet, but my phone did get wet in there. So there's something on a rainy day, visibility is low, so having a headlight is helpful. Also, springtime, sun's still going down early, really easy to get caught out in the dark, or simply visibility is less. Drivers aren't paying the same amount of attention, and they're not expecting to see a cyclist on wet roads. Bright front light, really bright rear light. This is one of those blind you rear lights. I don't believe in blind you rear lights when you have someone who you're riding in front of, because this will blind them, and that's not very nice. And if you're riding with someone, there's going to be greater visibility to cars because there's more of you. So a slightly less bright light is fine, but the blind you light, good when you're alone and need to be visible. And one of these orange vests, it's visible. Throw that on over everything. It's easy to manage, lightweight, easy to carry. So it's good for safety purposes. What else do I have? Is a bag. They have a neck warmer, wool neck warmers. So nice. These are just cozy, and you put them over your face when you get cold, and they protect your neck. It's just a very handy thing to have. This is a second one. I had one on me, and I carry a second one just because when the first one gets wet, it's wool. It's not as cold when it's wet, but still there can be psychological peace of mind. And a lot of it is psychological. You know how hard it is to go out when it's raining, but if you get caught out, it's not so hard. Psychology in general. Another hat, various weight hats. I have a summer weight hat, it's warmer, and then wool hat like what I'm wearing now. And then I also always forget this, but a case for my glasses, because a lot of times when it's wet, it's impossible to see through glasses, and I want to take my glasses off, and I don't have a safe place to put them. And then extra cables, extra batteries important for charging your phone. And your phone's your lifeline, so do all the things, carry the extra batteries. For that, carry waterproof socks. They're not super necessary. If you're gonna wear wool socks and you're gonna get wet, that's fine. These are nice when you have to put on wet shoes the second day of a 2-day trip or something, because then you put your feet in the waterproof socks in your shoes, and your feet don't get wet and they stay more comfortable and warm. This is my bag of extra tube and batteries, and it's just protected. What else? Extra lights, extra rear lights, extra front lights, and an emergency bivy. We've needed safety blankets on a lot of different rides, so that's what that is. All the mechanical stuff, all the things you need to deal with a mechanical. And one last thing that I should have here that I didn't is chemical hand warmers, because when you get cold and you've got to stop for a mechanical, having chemical hand warmers to warm up again can be really helpful. So those aren't just good for the winter time. Let me see what else I might suggest. That is pretty comprehensive. Yeah, so with the right clothes and the right preparation and simply the right mindset, riding in the rain is quite pleasant, even on a cold day. It was 42 degrees when I was out, so it was cold. That's textbook cold, and it was pleasant, and it was really nice to get out. It was just it's a good time to think and be outside, and it felt really good. I would never have gotten that kind of time inside, and I would have been grumpy about staying home all day. So I hope you get out, enjoy the rain this season, get your waterproof clothes. It's worth it. These things last forever. All of the clothes and everything that I mentioned, they last a long time. They're all good. So there's some good stuff about riding in the rain. If you have any questions, comments, please put them in the comments below. Like this video and share it with your friends. The more people we have out on the road to ride with together, the better it is for everybody.